Hello everyone, welcome back to the kitchen. It's been a while, not that you guys would know that because I stockpiled episodes, so you'll probably be seeing this one a week after you saw the last one, hopefully. But welcome back anyway to Get Cooking. Today on Get Cooking we're going to be making meat pies. So let's get to it. Alright, first ingredient we're going to need in our meat pies is some all-purpose flour. Unfortunately I don't have enough left in this bag for what I need, so I'm going to try using this because it's the only other flour I have. This is self-rising flour. Hopefully it works, but if you can, use all-purpose flour. I'm going to try this. Don't know what's going to happen. Alright. Next thing you'll need, about a pound of hamburger. The recipe calls for 8 ounces. That's only about half a pound. I'm just going to use a full pound, make it go a little bit further. It ain't going to hurt anything. You'll need some carrots. Fresh out of the freezer? No, they're not fresh out of the freezer. They're fresh out of the fridge, so they're nice and crispy, unlike my last meal where I stuck them in the freezer. You will also need 1 onion. The recipe calls for half an onion. I'm going to use a whole onion because that's what I do. You will need 1 large potato. My potatoes are kind of small, so I'm going to use 2. You will need some butter. It actually calls for a stick of butter. My mother used my last stick of butter because she didn't know I needed it for anything, so I'm going to try and make it work with regular butter, but if you can get a stick, use a stick. You will also need some cooking lard, Crisco, whatever you can find. Normally you can find lard in a stick form as well, but the only thing they had at the store when I went looking for lard was 3 sticks, and it was kind of high in price where I've gotten them before a lot cheaper. So I got this bucket of lard. I'm going to try and make it work. Not sure how it's going to work, but we'll figure it out. So you need some lard. You will also need some salt and some pepper, and some rosemary, and some thyme. I don't have much thyme left in here, but I do have another bottle of thyme here ready to go. And I believe that's all of our ingredients right there. So now I'm going to show you how to prepare this. Alright, boys and girls, one more thing you're going to need that I forgot to mention is some ice water. So just grab yourself a bowl, throw some ice cubes in it, run some cold water in it, let it sit. You're going to need that nice and cold. Now, here's the tricky part and why this would normally call for a stick of butter is you need to cube your butter. How am I going to do this? Well, I don't know. So, as I showed you in a previous video, the stick of butter, when it's still in the wrapper, not in the box, but in the wrapper, it actually has markings on the wrapper that tells you how much is 1 tablespoon of butter. There's a total of 8 tablespoons in a stick of butter, so I'm going to use a tablespoon and dish out 8 tablespoons of butter onto this plate. It also gives you measurements of cups and half cups and things like that. 1 stick of butter is a half a cup, which is what you're going to need. You're also going to need half a cup of lard, but of course lard is a different measurement than sticks of butter. But if you get the sticks of lard as opposed to the tub, there are also the same markings on the stick of lard. I think it's half a stick equals half a cup because lard is denser than butter, but instead of trying to figure all that out, I'm just going to use my half cup measuring cup, which is right there, and dish out a half a cup of lard, and we'll just go from there. Okay, so we're going to dish out 1, 2, 3. I probably should actually be using my measuring spoon for these because I think this tablespoon's actually a bit big. Yeah. So this is 1 tablespoon of a measuring spoon, so let's see how much I actually have here. That's 1. That's about 2. So each one of my big tablespoons is probably roughly 1 measured tablespoon. Yeah, we'll go with that. So each one of my big ones is 2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So I need 2 more of those. So there's 7. or I just could have done one more of the big spoon, and 8. Okay, so there's my 8 tablespoons of butter, which should equal half a cup. Now, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to try and form this into a mushed up stick type of thing. Best I can. You don't have to do this, you can just measure out the 8 tablespoons. But I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. So, there we have our stick of butter. Okay, so now what it wants you to do, basically if you had an actual stick of butter, and this is why I'm doing this, each of the markings is a tablespoon. So basically there's 8, so normally what you do is just cut it on the marks that are on the wrapper to get pads about like that. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's actually 7. There should be about one more marking. So once you got all your pads cut out, you would lay them down individually. If I can get one of these pulled aside, probably not. No, this ain't gonna work. But then you would want to cut it once that way, and then cut both of those once that way. So basically you get cubes. Whatever. We got our butter. Or you can dish it in a tablespoon at a time. Alright, now we need a large mixing bowl, which we have here. Set your butter aside. We are going to need 3 cups of flour. I believe I still have about a cup left over of the all-purpose flour from the other day. Let's see how this works out. Maybe if I can get 2 out of this, I'll only need... Okay, so there's 1. And that's about 1.5 of regular all-purpose flour. Now I'm going to switch over to my self-rising, but like I said, if you guys got all-purpose flour and you got enough to equal 3 cups, then by all means do it, because that's what the recipe calls for. Alright, so then we're going to pour a little bit of our other flour in here to equal out 1 cup, so that's 2, and then 1 more cup. And you'll need a little bit of extra flour because we are making a dough here, so there's 3. So we'll need a little bit for rolling out later. Alright, now what you want to do using a fork, which I don't have. There we go. You want to put in your 1 stick of butter, like so. Again, it should be cubed up. I'm not cubing it for whatever reason. And you want your lard, which I haven't counted out yet. Alright, and we have our lard. Again, we're just going to use half a cup. And this is solidified. Yay. Like I said, lard is denser. Normally it is not this hard to work with. I don't know what the deal is with this lard. Yeah, normally lard is softer and easier to use, kind of like butter. This lard is hard for some reason. Anyway, that's about half a cup. It's about 2 of my big tablespoons, so that'd be 4 tablespoons. So like I said, about half a stick. And normally you would want to, actually I'm going to try, you would cube up the stick as well, just like you did with the butter. So I'm going to see what I can do here. About like that. That did absolutely nothing. But we're just going to throw that into the flour as well. Now using the fork, you just want to mix all this in until it gets crumbly. You'll know when it gets there. As you can see, like the little balls forming there, but you want it all to kind of be like that, all 3 cups. As you can see, it's kind of forming a dough now. It's pulling away from the sides. That's what you want, but you also want to kind of crush up the lard and the butter using the fork. so it goes further and it's not just big clumps of lard covered in flour. Like I said, if I had the proper ingredients, this would work out better. I might actually go buy the ingredients in a week or so and redo this episode. I know you guys haven't actually seen it because I haven't posted them, but like my last 3 recipes, for some reason certain things just go wrong with them, and I'm not happy with them. And I haven't actually posted some of them because I plan to do reshoots on them. Anyway, basically you want it kind of like this, but smaller pebbles, more pebble sized than rock sized. Mash it up the best you can. I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready and we're on to our next step. Alright guys, one thing I forgot is I was actually supposed to add a teaspoon of salt in with the flour before I added the butter and shortening, so I'm going to add it now, try to stir it in. It's probably going to screw everything up, but yeah. So put in the put in the salt with the flour and give it a good stir. Incorporate the salt in before you actually add in the butter and lard. So as you can see, it's kind of clumped up. Normally you don't want this big of clumps, you want like little pebble size like I said. This lard's not breaking up quite as well as the butter did, so it's kind of sticking to everything and making these big clumps, but hopefully I can work all those out in the next step. So let's move on to that. Alright, so once you have your flour, butter, lard mixture ready, if you guys have a food processor or a mixer, go ahead and throw it in the mixer. I have one. I'm going to try not to use it because I'm trying to show everyone how to do the recipe, not just the people who have all these fancy things. Alright, so next step is our ice water. We will need 2/3 of a cup. I have a 1/3 measuring cup, so I'm going to do 2 of these. So I'm going to get some of my ice water into the cup like so. And you want to add in about 1/3 of a cup at a time. So there's our first one. Now we're going to give that a mix. And this will start to smooth out our mixture here, hopefully. As you can see, it's becoming a little bit more pasty and clumping together a lot more. It picked up a lot of that stuff from the side. And here we have our second third, which is our 2/3. If it's still dry after this, we want to add in water about a tablespoon at a time. I think last time it ended up equaling out to just under a cup. Actually, this looks like it's forming up pretty good. So you can see there it's kind of pasty now. Still a little bit dry, so I'm going to add just a little bit more. Again, just doing it a tablespoon at a time now until it smooths out and becomes more dough-like. I know it's tedious work, but just keep working at it. Eventually you'll get there. Like I said, if you do have a mixer or a food processor, go ahead and use it. I'm using the back of a spoon now to try and smooth it against the edge of the bowl to help break up some of them clumps. And then when you scrape it back down, it should form into a nice, smooth, pasty ball. If you want to get in there with your hands, go for it. You don't want to wet your hands a little bit in the ice water before you do so that it doesn't stick. Add a little bit more water. Again, another tablespoon. I think last time I ended up using an extra third. of a cup, so it ended up being 1 cup of water. But again, you don't want to overdo it. Make sure you try and scrape all that stuff away from the bottom too, just so you don't end up with any floury bits left in there. So there it's starting to come together. It's starting to smooth out quite a bit. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and use my hands because I can. Yeah. Probably shouldn't. Yeah, that's basically about what we want right there. It's a nice pasty ball. Try and form it into a ball a bit. Best you can. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be kind of spiky because it is going to stick to your hands. But that's about what you want. A nice ball. Alright, I'm going to pause, wash my hands. I'll show you the next step. Alright, so we are back. And as you may have noticed, the counter has changed here. This is my large cutting board. And what you want to do is take a little bit of your flour and just sprinkle it around on your cutting board, like so. Just get you a nice floured surface. If you don't have a large cutting board, you can do it on your countertop. Just be careful because it does make a mess everywhere. Alright, now what you want to do, if you can, dump your dough ball right out of the bottom here, right onto there, and you're just going to kind of roll it in the flour a bit. That'll take some of that moisture out and allow you to form it into a nice dough ball. Again, put some on your hands if you want so it doesn't stick quite as bad. Like so. And as you can see, it's kind of taking better shape now. Why it keeps sticking on that one spot? Alright, let's see if that helps. There we go. So as you can see, it's kind of floury now, which you don't want too much flour, but you want it to not be sticky. So as you can see, I can pick it up and handle it now, and it's not all spiky. Except there's a little bit of raw dough on my finger over here. Just work it in, it'll come off. Just keep rolling it in the flour. Like so. Now, a little bit more flour. You basically want to knead the dough until it's no longer pasty like that. If it starts to feel pasty again, add a little bit more flour. Turn the dough inside out a few times, put some more flour on it. Just until it stops being so tacky. Smush it out, roll it over. Okay, give it a little bit more flour. Give it one more roll around. That should be good now. It's not sticking to the board anymore. Flatten it out a few times. You don't want it too floury and too dry, but you don't want it tacky either. You want to be able to handle it. Alright, so once we got it like that, we're going to need some saran wrap. So we're going to need some plastic wrap, like so. Now it says to flatten it out into kind of a flat rectangle. Whatever. It's close enough, right? I'm going to cover it with some saran wrap. Maybe. Alright, now, if we can, we're going to fold it up into the plastic wrap. Like so. Alright. Wrap it up in some saran wrap. Let's get another piece. Place the second piece over top of the parts you just folded. Wrap it under the bottom. Try to create as much of a seal as you can. Alright, so there, it's all covered. There's no air getting into it. Now we're going to throw this in the fridge for about 30 minutes. I'm going to set it on a plate. Like so. But this is going to go in the fridge for about 30 minutes. Alright, and while that's refrigerating, I'm going to clean up this mess and we'll get started on making the filling. Alright kids, and we're back. So I've cleaned up our cutting board, I've cleaned up our mixing bowl. in the mixing bowl, we want to add our 1 pound of hamburger. Boom, done. Set it aside. We'll come back to it later. Gonna take our onion and dice this son of a bitch up like we always do. Boom. Peel off that outer layer. My mother was chopping up an onion this morning, trying to use her chopper that I was showing you guys, that purple one, and she couldn't get the onion to cut. And it's because this outer layer is tough, and for some reason it's kind of rubbery, and her chopper won't go through it. So every time she tries to cut up an onion, she struggles with it. As you guys have seen, I've cut right through it easily. I tell her, peel off the outer layer. She goes, well, there goes half the onion. Still got plenty of onion right there. Alright, now as a treat for you guys, cut this in half. Cut each of these halves into half. Now, I dug this son of a bitch out of the cover. This is a slap chop. Boom, done. Next one. Boom, done. Next one. Boom, done. Last piece. Boom, done. Quick and easy, quick and painless. Sorry about all the loud banging, but that's how you use a slap chop. Alright, onions, done. Take them, throw them in the bowl with the meat. Boom. Again, it says half an onion. I used a whole one. Alright, next item. Potatoes. Gonna give these a quick wash. Alright, so we're gonna peel the biggest one first, just in case I don't actually need the big one. I think that's good. Now, half it. Half it. It says to dice them. Guess what I'm about to do with these? Can you guess? Can you guess? Bring back the slap chop. 1, 2, 3. A little bit more. 1, 2, 3. Good enough. This thing doesn't do too good on potatoes, apparently. Alright guys, hopefully you can still see everything okay. Camera ran out of space, so I had to go dump everything off of it real quick. So what you missed was I finished chopping up the potato, added in here with our meat and our onion. Now the next item we're going to need is our carrots. It says 1 large carrot. I got these baby carrots because I like them to snack on. So I'm just going to use probably a handful of these until I feel it's about equal to a large carrot. So probably like that. Sure, why not? And again, we're just going to use our slap chop because we're supposed to cut it up anyway. And I'm just trying to get this done quick because I don't have much time to finish it. Okay, so we got a handful of our carrots down in the slap chop. Give it a little bit more. That's probably good. It just says to dice up the carrots, and these are already baby carrots as it is. So you don't want them too finely chopped. Look at that. That one hasn't even been touched. But that's good. So take that handful, throw it in with our meat, do some more. That's actually probably good there. Don't want to overdo it with the carrots, even though we only got a couple more here. I'll just snack on these ones. Good. Okay, so there we have that mixture. The recipe does also call for 1 turnip. I couldn't find a turnip. If you can find one, go ahead and chop it up and throw that in there as well. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I only used the 1 potato instead of 2. Now, we're going to take this, we're going to add in basically about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt. Oops, might help if I use the right setting. Same thing with the pepper. I do have my measuring teaspoon, but I already threw it in the sink, so good luck with that. We're also going to add in some of our thyme. Again, you want a half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon each. And lastly, our rosemary, which has not been opened, so I gotta do that real quick. Simple and easy. And just a little bit of rosemary. Rosemary goes quick, so be careful. And there's our seasoning. Now we're going to mix all this up like we would a meatloaf. Alright, so there we have that, all mixed up. It's not going to stay 100% solid like a meatloaf would. That's okay. We don't want it 100% solid. We basically just want it enough to where it's well incorporated, a little bite of everything in each bite. Alright, set that aside. I'm going to clean up, and then on to the next step. Got everything cleaned up. I'm not sure how long it's been. Our dough was supposed to sit in the refrigerator for half hour to 45 minutes. I'm not sure how long it took me to cut up all the vegetables and clean up the mess and everything. We're just going to assume it's been a half hour because it probably has. While you're cleaning up and doing everything else, go ahead and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Ours just finished preheating because I did that while I was cleaning up. Now we're going to grab our dough out of the fridge and hopefully it's ready to go. The plate feels nice and cold, so that's about what you want. You basically just want it chilled. We're going to unwrap it from the plastic wrap now. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. I'm slightly off camera. Sorry about that. As you can see, it got a little bit tacky again. So I'm going to dump this out onto the plate, like so. Alright, so once you got it out on the plate, you want to cut this into 6 as equal as you can to portions. So we're going to cut it once down the center. Like so. You can use a knife. I'm using this little pizza cutter tool that my mother has. But you can just use the same knife that you cut it with earlier. Or whatever you were cutting your vegetables with earlier is fine. Alright. We're going to flour our surface again. Like so. That should be a nice coating of flour so it doesn't stick too heavily this time. And you basically want to split this into 6 even little balls. Or as close to even as you can, I guess. If one looks a little small compared to the others, don't worry about it. Alright, so there are 6 balls, even parts. Alright, so we want to work one ball at a time. So kind of set the others around the edge the best you can. And you want to take the small ball, flour it up a little bit so you can work it. And you just want to, it says to roll it out. I don't know if I actually have a rolling pin here. So just find any old thing that's got some weight to it and is round. I got a can of sauce here. Probably put a little bit of flour on the surface too, just so it doesn't stick. Basically what you want to do is roll these out to where they're roughly 8-inch circles. This isn't anywhere near a circle, but that's okay, we'll make it work. So like so, right? Good enough. Now I want to take our 1/2 cup measuring cup and get a portion of our beef mixture over here. Just like so. We got a little bit extra because I made extra. You're just going to plop it in the middle right there. You want to roll it into a pocket like so. This one wants to fight with me. But before you close it up, which hopefully I'll remember to do on the next one, you want to put approximately a teaspoon of butter in it as well. That's going to help everything cook in the oven. Now, do your best to roll it up into a pocket without ripping it. Seal the edges using a fork if you can. This one's not too pretty, but it'll work. So that's our first one. Let's see if I can get it off of here without destroying it. Nope. Alright. See if the second one works out any better. Alright. So we're going to flatten that out the best we can. Just give it a gentle roll. Try not to let it stick. That's a bit more of what we wanted until we did that. Alright, so we want enough area that we can actually fold this up into a nice pocket, unlike that first one I just did. So there's our second one. Again, we're going to take about 1/2 cup of our meat mixture right into the center, press it down a little bit, a teaspoon of butter on top. Actually, if you can, try and set the meat mixture closer to this edge than in the center. And then we just want to pick this up. This ain't quite how we're supposed to do it, but fudge sticks. We're just going to make a pocket out of it. Who gives a shit? There we go. That works for me. What about you guys? It doesn't have the nice pretty crimped edges, but at this point I'm tired of messing with it. I really don't care. So there we go. Next one. Just going to do this until we get it right. Gently roll it. Whichever way works the best for you guys. If you like doing just the fold over pockets, go for it. Oh, you are also going to need an egg later on. I'll show you guys that when we get to it. Alright, so there's that. About 1/2 cup of our meat mixture. Again, we're going to try and keep it closer to this side this time. Bring the fold over top of it like so. Fold up your edges if you need to, since I got excess here. And just kind of press them with the fork just to give it the look. Honestly, I think it works better just folding up into a pocket. I'm tired of fighting with this stuff. So, yeah. There's our pocket. Got 2 more of these to do. I'm going to do those, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, so here we have our 6 pies. Not at all what they're supposed to look like, unfortunately. You'll also need 1 egg. The pies are placed on a cookie sheet on top of a piece of parchment paper. So you're going to take your egg and lightly beat it, like so. Good enough. And then using whatever type of basting brush you can find, you just want to brush it over the tops. This isn't my best basting brush. It's just going to help it brown up. Like so. Try and get around the edges. Hopefully I got enough time to finish showing you guys how to make this. It's already 11:30 and I got some other stuff I gotta take care of. Gotta get all this mess cleaned up. We'll do our best. Basically, you just want a nice coverage, like so. Again, make sure you get all the edges. And then our deformed pie that almost looked like it was supposed to. Again, when you're making these, remember to put the dab of butter in there. Again, I was using a teaspoon, but what it actually calls for is on another stick of butter, cut off 3 of the tablespoons, and then cut each of those in half to make 6 half tablespoons. Put a little bit more on this first one. Let's use up what we got. Don't be afraid to go back over them if you did one kind of light to make sure you had enough coverage. It's fine. If you want to make slightly smaller meat pies, cut the dough up into a little bit more. That's up to you. I ain't going to stop you. Make about half size ones. Okay, so that's good. Now we're going to pop these in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes we're going to reduce the oven temperature down to 350 and then cook them an additional 20 minutes. One thing that comes up, a question online all the time on this recipe that I saw, is do you pre-cook the meat and vegetables before you put it in here? The answer is no. It won't ruin the pastry. They'll cook fine with the butter. Everything will get, all the vegetables will get absorbed, and the grease from the meat will absorb into the vegetables, make them nice and tender. So don't pre-cook the meat, don't pre-cook the pie crust, nothing. So we're going to pop these in the oven on our parchment paper, and we'll see you in 20 minutes. Alright guys, so it's been 20 minutes. Let's check on these, see where we're at. As you can see, they're getting to a nice toasty brown. That egg and butter mixture is bubbling away. Now what you want to do is lower your oven temperature from 400 to 350. That should shift everything over to the heating element. And now we're going to let this cook at 350 for another 20 minutes until these are nice golden brown, which they kind of look on the video, but they're not quite there yet. Gonna let these continue to cook. The dough did rise a little bit, which it doesn't normally do, but I think that's because I used the self-rising flour. Alright, so we're gonna let that cook for another 20 minutes. Let's come over here to our timer. 20 minutes, and I will see you guys then. Alright guys, it's been almost 20 minutes. We got 10 seconds left here. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beep beep. There's our beep. Alright, let's take a look. Oh, look at those beauties. Right. So these should be just about done. They look pretty good to me. Set them up here on the stove. Now, as you can see, all that grease that's pooling there, the butter and whatnot, there was quite a bit of that on the tray a minute ago, so I did dump some of it off. The parchment paper is actually supposed to absorb that. But I guess it was a little bit more than the parchment paper could handle, so I did drain it off. And there they are. You can see they're a nice golden brown crust. I'm going to let these sit for about 5 minutes before I try to remove them from here and cut into them. So I'll see you guys in 5. I'll cut one open, show you what they look like, and then maybe we'll do a quick taste test. Alright guys, so it's been 5 minutes. These are nice and cooled now. I'm going to try and remove them from the parchment paper. Like I said a minute ago, there was a lot of pooling of the excess butter and stuff that ran off because I have these little holes in here and it kind of leaked out of there. When I drained it off, I didn't drain it completely off. I did leave a very thin layer because otherwise it'll tend to stick to the parchment paper. And you don't want it sticking to the parchment paper because then you're going to be eating parchment paper off the bottom of it. So let a little bit of that grease stay on the bottom just to keep them from sticking. Now I'm going to try to carefully, I'll see how easy that lifted right off. Without all that grease, it would have stuck to the parchment paper like crazy. I'm going to try and lift these off of here. Why is that sticking? The two doughs wedged together there for some reason. Alright. Okay, put that one up there. I think I'm going to eat this one because it's the first one I made that got a little screwed up. But I want to get rid of this parchment paper and all the grease that's on it. And then I'm just going to put the rest of these right back on here. And let them continue to cool until they're ready to be eaten. Again, these are very hot, so be very careful. So there we have it. As you can see, the beef definitely cooked all the way through. And then remember, it was raw when it went in. Try one of these little carrot babies. Still crispy but nice and cooked. Alright guys, so there you have it. I am going to show you guys me trying this in just a second, but I want to also talk to you about toppings, because there are many different toppings. The recipe I have says to use brown mustard. I'm currently out of brown mustard. You can use regular mustard if you like mustard. A lot of people in the comments on the website where I got this recipe from say to use ketchup. Some people say to use brown gravy. Some people say to eat it plain. Some people say to put more butter on top of it. I'm almost out of ketchup, so I don't want to waste what I do got. So I'm just going to use a little bit of Sweet Baby Ray's here. I'm not actually going to top it. I'm just going to put a dab on the plate and just kind of dip my bites into it. Alright, so let me get turned around here and I'll show you guys me trying this. Okay guys, so there we have it. I'm not going to move over to the table just because I want to wrap this up pretty quick. Like I said, you are going to see me try it in just a second here. Don't know if I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but this recipe was actually suggested to me by my friend Jane. She does a live cooking show over on Twitch TV. I think it's called Twitch and Kitchen. I'm not sure what nights she does it. She has a schedule over there, but I don't know exactly what her schedule is because I haven't looked in a while. But she made this a while back. I tried it. I liked it. So now I'm making it for you guys. Again, sorry about me fumbling the recipe a bit. I don't know what's going on. The last couple of recipes I've tried to do, I fumbled with them. I'm not sure if I'm going to reshoot this one or not because they did turn out pretty good. So let's just try it and we'll decide later if we're going to reshoot. Alright, so here we have the pie, and get a nice piece of the crust with some of that meat in there. Get a little dip into the barbecue. Nice flaky crust, not too soggy, not too overdone. Beef is good. Carrots are good, potatoes, onions. Yeah, it's pretty much up to you guys what you want to top it with. I've never actually tried it with the brown gravy. That could actually be really good. Like I said, I might let them cool a little bit longer, maybe closer to 10-15 minutes before you actually try eating them. Just let everything come back together a little bit more. But overall, I'm happy with the result. So, unless I do reshoots, this is the video. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Again, if you make this recipe and you like it or whatever, send me pictures of you guys making it, eating it, whatever. Doesn't have to be a video, just a picture like, hey, here it is, I made it, and show me the plate, whatever. If you try it and you like it, or you don't like it, or you want to change something, comments down below the description. Oh, one other thing. Like I said, the recipe does call for 1 turnip. I couldn't find a turnip at the store. Some people say not to use turnip, not to use carrots, and actually substitute them both out with a rutabaga. I know some of you overseas don't know what a rutabaga is. It has a different name in England. I can't remember the name right offhand. Just Google what a rutabaga is. If you don't like that, go for the turnip. You don't like turnips, leave it out. I left it out. Tastes great. Some people say the turnip or the rutabaga bring it together. I don't know. Haven't tried it. But there we have it. That's it for this episode. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. I already said that. Links are in the description. And until next time, get cooking.